I know a few more people will be joining, but in the interest of time, we'll start. Um, Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the very first episode of our special webinar series, Accelerate Your Career in India's GCCs, Insights and Roadmap for Future Women Leaders. We're genuinely excited to have you with us today. My name is Ananya, and I'm an Associate Director hiring at Pride Circle. It's truly a pleasure to be opening this conversation with all of you. This series has been created exclusively for women professionals, and we are launching it at a time when GCC growth in India is outpacing almost every other sector. So, this evening, we are stepping into a conversation that's not just shaping today's talent landscape, it's redefining what leadership, opportunity, and growth can look like for women across India's rapidly expanding global capability centers. So, to set the tone for this series, we'll be exploring understanding the GCC landscape and the opportunities ahead, skill development and navigating future career pathways, and most importantly, insights from leaders who have built, scaled, and shaped the GCC story from the front lines. Before we dive in, it is my absolute privilege to welcome the remarkable leaders joining us today. Individuals who bring deep expertise, global vision, and a strong commitment to building inclusive, future ready organizations. Eva James, VP Global Service Delivery and Global Hub at Renault Nissan Technology and Business Center India. Renzi Matthew, People Leader, APAC and Managing Director at Sabre. Ajay Krishnan Kutty, Head Talent Acquisition, APG Region at Siemens Healthineers. Thank you, Eva, Renzi, and Ajay for being with us here today. Your leadership and advocacy truly make a difference, and we are grateful for the perspectives you'll be sharing with us today. Now, the important question is, why are we gathered here today? India's GCC ecosystem is going through one of its most exciting and transformative phases. What started as cost-focused support centers have now evolved into strategic global hubs driving innovation, engineering, AI, cybersecurity, digital transformation, high-value decision-making for some of the world's largest organizations. The message is unmistakable. GCCs are no longer back rooms, they are boardrooms. They have moved far beyond execution, they are now global decision-making engines. And here's the kicker. Women are projected to make up to 50% of this workforce. And with this shift comes tremendous opportunities, especially for women, representing something powerful, a level playing field where skills, capabilities, and ambition can truly thrive beyond traditional barriers. I'm sure most of you here have seen a set of polls we ran on our LinkedIn page. And like a couple of interesting insights stood out. Hyderabad was voted the strongest emerging GCC hub at 54%, and global roles with strategic impact remain the top aspiration for women professionals at 48%. Now, these numbers tell us something important. Women are seeking meaningful, future facing careers in the right cities, in the right industries, and with real leadership pathways. And GCCs today are uniquely positioned to offer exactly that. So this evening is all about recognizing the potential and understanding how we can unlock it together. So once again, a warm welcome to all of you and an especially heartfelt welcome to Eva, Renzi, and Ajay. We're truly excited to learn from your experiences and insights. And with that, it is my pleasure to hand it over to Ajay to take us forward. Over to you, Ajay.
Thank you so much, Ananya. And thanks for actually giving us the opportunity to kind of present in front of the forum. Maybe to add up to what you said, Ananya, I may add a few more insights from a GCC standpoint of view for India, right? If you look at, I don't need to give a definition of GCCs, but GCC is nothing but an offshoring unit of maybe a multinational corporation which may be providing various services. From an India context, we are pretty strong. We are very, very strong on the GCCs, especially when it comes to information technology, retail, financial services, oil and energy, internet, life sciences, and manufacturing as a sector. If you look at the path of GCC starting from 2019, when 2019 was actually when we closed 2019, we had close to 1,250 GCCs across India with a annual turnover of close to $30 billion. And in that year, we had set up around 45 GCCs in India and amounted to almost 1.2 million workforce from a headcount standpoint. If you as we stand in 2025, this 1,250 has now become 1,600 with an annual turnover of $45 billion. And in this year alone, we have actually kind of started across India close to 17 GCCs, and our headcount currently stands approximately close to 1.9 million from a headcount standpoint of view for just the GCCs. As we progress onto the journey, next year is going to be a pretty strong one. We are expecting another 90 GCCs to be set across India. The general market size is supposed to be increasing almost up to a 73 billion, and by 2030, if you ask me, India would mostly around the 2,400 GCC mark with close to 110 billion market cap, and also around 150, approximately around 115 to 120 GCCs being set up every year on year, right? And that at that point in time, we are currently at 1.9 million headcount. We would be closing close to 3.5 million headcount. So if you look at the overall headcount growth that GCC is going to be adding onto the sector, it's going to be huge. And like Ananya mentioned, the major hubs of GCC growth is predominantly going to be around Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune would be the top three destinations. And then there will be definitely tier 2 and tier 3 cities that GCCs are going to be tapping across. So with that, I just want to give a context, and maybe Eva, over to you to maybe give a little bit of more light in terms of what you are currently working on, and also the overall view of GCCs in India, and what do you think would be the future? Because it's not going to be just the workforce that we're going to be adding. Like Ananya mentioned, it's going to be a lot more brains putting together solutions and working along with the corporations outside India. So maybe you can start off with that thought, Eva, and then pass it across to Renzi. Eva, you're on mute. You may have to unmute yourself. Renzi, do you want to pick up that question and we pass it across to Eva?
Sure. Are you able to hear me?
We are able to hear you. Absolutely.
Okay, got it. I think Ananya and you started off well. So the India GCC ecosystem has moved far beyond its original identity, right? We started off as a cost-efficient offshore, and today GCCs are strategic engines of innovation, talent development, and enterprise transformation, right? And like you rightly mentioned, right, we are close to 2,000 GCCs now with 2 million people contributing not just scale, but deep capability across AI, cloud, cybersecurity, product engineering, and domain-specific innovation. What's fueling this growth is India's unique talent advantage, our ability to blend technical path, business understanding, and increasingly diverse and inclusive workforce. GCs are no longer just executing, they are designing, building, and owning end-to-end products and platforms for the world. If the last decade was about being talent factory, the next decade will be about India becoming the innovation powerhouse for global enterprises. GCCs will be the place where new business models get incubated, where AI meets human insight, and where inclusion becomes a true competitive advantage.
Thank you, Renzi. Very well summarized. Eva, are you able to pitch in now?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Thank you. It's a beautiful rainy evening, but it's nice to see women gathered around this virtual platform to listen to us. My background, I've spent about 33 years in the technology industry and the last 20 years in GCCs. So I have had the opportunity to work in pure play services organizations before I moved to the GCC, currently with the auto sector, but before this with Bank of New York for about 10 years. So the fundamental difference is, as you're part of a GCC, you don't position yourself as a service provider in India, right? You feel you're part of a bigger ecosystem. So today, I wake up every day to help Renault build better cars. And I'm tracking the market. Likewise, when I used to work of Bank of New York, we were worried about the trading impact of certain regulations in the Middle East. What should we do about it? So it was not just a technologist providing technology platform, but beyond that, you feel that not just feel you are part of the larger business ecosystem. And I think that is where the beauty of the GCC lies, right? They do not segment, okay, in India they do this work, in the Middle East they do this work, Mexico is brought for this. Everyone, distances, yes, they are there between the corporate and the various digital hubs, but we are all part of one larger ecosystem. And I think women can really step up and leverage this ecosystem to the fullest potential, right? Because when you're in a typical services industry, you move from one project to another, that sense of fulfillment really lacks. Right, and that is something that I've cherished in the last 2 decades working with GCCs, and I think it's an absolute platform to take ownership, to be accountable for the larger piece of the pie.
Thank you, Eva. And Eva, maybe just to kind of warm up the things, right? I wanted to kind of maybe start off with maybe two or couple of rapid fire questions for you, and then we get on to the broader or more serious discussion in terms of where we are headed out from a GCC standpoint of view, right? Maybe I'll start off with maybe 3 or 4 questions, Eva. One from your career, right? A pretty long 3 decades of career in the IT industry. What would be the one career advice that you wish you had received a little bit more earlier in your life?
Understanding the difference between sponsors and mentors. Very early in the day, I think I did not distinguish the two. But I think there's a point of time when you get that. And when you get that understanding, it makes a world of a difference. For the benefit of the people in this platform, mentors help you, coach you by instilling the confidence, by giving you the skills, by sharing their experiences and their wisdom. But the one who actually gets you the position, speaks for you behind your back in the room that you're not present are your sponsors, right? So it's very important that we understand the difference and we actively work on building both these networks. Because many times people are talking about mentoring as a very important tool. We need to be a mentee and all of that. But equally important, or probably even more important, is having the right sponsor. Because only at the convergence point of having the right mentors and sponsors does someone's career trajectory take off, right? So I think as very young professionals today, you need to understand that. It took a while for me to understand, but I think if I had known this earlier, I'm sure it would have been better for me too.
Thank you, Eva. Eva, if anybody wants to understand more about your habits, right? I'm pretty sure all of us would have good versus bad habits, but tell me about one habit that would have made you a lot successful in the way you are right now, sitting where you are.
I don't say it with a lot of pride, but I would be the first one to put my hand up anytime an opportunity comes, right? Whether I am prepared for it. I mean, it came because of my ambition to grow and also my observing of people who did that were having better visibility for growth and for opportunities. So this is something that even as a child in school and colleges, I had this habit in me that whether I know or I don't know doesn't matter. But if I hear an opportunity, my hand would go up, right? And then was I comfortable? Did it scare the shit out of me? Absolutely, yes. But I would spend time and energy, work with people. And when you put your hand up and you get it, then you have to make it work. So you will find ways and means, people, tools, techniques to get it done, right? So I think women in general, not everyone, hold themselves back a little bit. But I think if you very intentionally develop this habit of making yourself available and ready for assignments, stretch assignments, projects, I think that will take you in a long way.
Absolutely. And Eva, that actually kind of gives one trivia that I can give, right, from a recruitment standpoint of view. If you really look at how people apply for jobs, right, men generally apply for jobs even if it's 30% fit from a job description standpoint of view, whereas women would look for maybe 80% and above, right, which gives that articulation very well. So brilliant habit to have. I want to ask you one more next question in terms of like a rapid fire itself for a quick bite from you, especially related to the skills that every woman should have in 2026, right? When the upcoming year comes from a GCC standpoint, if you're keeping aside all the AI interventions and technology, because our jobs are sometimes tech and non-tech related, is there anything that you would actually kind of give as one skill set that we should all learn in 2026?
See, we are living in the world today which is data driven. So I think one skill that we all need to develop, not just young women and young professionals, all of us at whichever stage in our career is storytelling with data. Because today there are tools and analytics which flash data, dashboards, graphs, in a very, very fancy way. But the one intrinsic quality which most of these tools will not have is the ability to connect it with real life scenarios and create a narrative, right? So I think that ability to articulate with data, storytelling with data is why I put it in that fashion, is probably a skill. And that skill requires a lot of underlying micro skills, right? You need to have a good understanding of what you're doing. You can't be very superficial about things. You need to know how things come together. You need to know the big picture. Need to know things at a granular level. So a lot of underlying micro elements are there. But if you look at it from the top of the house, I would say that storytelling with data is absolutely the need of the hour. Because today, if you see many of these things that you see on television or in our corporate environment, we see people flashing a big dashboard or a very powerful screen. But what is it in it for me? How do we interpret it is something that we lack. So I think people who have that ability will go places. And that's a skill that we should probably all build on.
Brilliant. Actually, one last one on the rapid fire. What is your biggest productivity hack?
My biggest productivity hack, very simple, two things. One is when I start my day, I finish the most difficult ones. They in the Japanese world they call it the eating the frog, right?
Okay.
Finish the most difficult ones first thing in the morning, whether it is a hard conversation with someone or finishing my review of a very difficult subject, anything it could be. That is when my mind is most fresh. My fatigue is not set in for the day. So the most difficult jobs first thing in the morning. And the second, it's a very trivial thing, but in the recent days, it's really boosted my productivity is to have two monitors in front of me. It might sound too silly for people, but that's a fact. It's really helped me keep my less critical ones out of focus, but it's still there. If I need to, I can quickly toggle, but the active window. So otherwise, I'm like alt tab all the time. So this two monitors trick, someone told me, and it really helps me. So the two monitors and doing my first job as the most difficult ones are probably my personal productivity hacks.
Wonderful, Eva. I'm thinking about bringing a third monitor also into place right now. I will actually ask one question before we move across to Renzi from a work standpoint of view, right? Especially when you are working for GCCs, right? Compared to a service level company, our global exposure is a lot more higher, right? In terms of how we are talking to stakeholders across the seas and getting their inputs. How do you think this can help us in terms of fast tracking some of our careers?
Yeah, see, the GCC network topography is very interesting, right? Your corporate stakeholders are sitting far away. Some of the critical roles, you're still playing it in India. There could be a parallel GCC in another country in Mexico. For example, in our case, I have hubs in Romania, I have my hubs in Brazil and other countries. So it forces you to build the cultural acumen. You cannot say, I don't know how people in Japan work or I don't know how French guys think, right? It forces you to build that cultural acumen that is needed. In general, I mean, a very small thing, right? I mean, Indians especially, we tend to speak very fast, right? Our English is reasonably good, but then the pace at which we speak is so fast, whereas it slows you down. And when it slows you down, it allows you to think and reflect better, I think, right? So this is just one example. And the other is, it helps you to work with teams across the globe. So being mindful of time zones, being mindful of complementary skills, being mindful of when to ask help, when to offer help, all of that comes very naturally in the GCC ecosystem. right? And some of these stretch assignments, of course, that is why I said you raise your hand when you see the opportunity. Because these companies are very big. I mean, I work for one of them, Renzi works for another, but all these GCCs have a huge opportunity landscape, right? As an India GCC, we could be tasked to do certain things, but then you have visibility to a lot more, right? So keeping your eyes and ears open, and that's probably the one way to grow in a GCC ecosystem, is to constantly talk to people, look for stretch assignments, look for areas you can contribute, be volunteers, be part of enterprise resource groups which are not even based out of India, right? So those are some avenues through which this GCC is really helping us. And as a part of many of the industry bodies today, when I meet men and women who are part of GCCs, some of the work that we are doing, and as Renzi said, from being a talent capital of the world, now we are becoming the innovation hub of the world, right? The number of startups, the number of unicorns that we are there. So I think one is to continue to do what we are expected to do, because India labor is cheaper, the cost arbitrage is definitely on the table. But beyond that, understanding what the business challenges are, becoming a little more business savvy, especially if you're like me as a technologist, picking up the business acumen. Because when I joined Renault, apart from driving my own car, I had very limited understanding of the car industry. So investing time in getting to understand how cars are being built, what are the market challenges, how do the regulatory bodies come into how cars are priced, how cars are built, all of that. No, I think that personal investment in learning and the networking with stakeholders across the globe are probably few catalysts for us to grow in the GCC ecosystem.
Absolutely. Very well put, actually, Eva. Renzi, ready for your rapid questions?
Yes.
And thanks for your inputs, Eva. Actually, practically right on the dot, right, in terms of how we need to focus. So thanks so much for that. Renzi, I'll start off with one pretty easy question. What would be the one stereotype about women leaders that you want to break in the way how Renzi is projecting your image outside?
So, Eva spoke about one part of it, which is our own mindset, right? I'll talk about the other one, right? The other one is that when people put you in a mold, right? I mean, I don't think as women we need to be softer, tougher, quieter, louder, anything in between to be taken seriously, right? Women lead with competence, clarity, and authenticity, and that should be enough.
Perfect. And Renzi, can you maybe mention a career decision that you are absolutely proud that you have made early in your career?
So, like Eva mentioned, what worked for me also is raising your hand, right, for projects, for anything that comes up, right. I think it's important to raise your hand and be visible, right. So, just to add to what you were saying, there are two things, right. One, you do really well in whatever you do. Right, whatever task has been given to you. Second thing, don't forget to market it. Like, I think somewhere long back I heard that, oh, just do your work and the work will speak for itself, but that doesn't happen. That's not the reality of the world, right? I think we need to do a good job and then market it as well. And it's important that you have these conversations with your own manager or your sponsors, mentors about, what are the opportunities available? How do I grow? What ask for feedback? Where do you need to improve? And continuously take out time to, improve yourself, right? And one of the things that I read, right, and which really works is that if you look at what you do right now, it will tell you where will you be in 5 years, right? So you should evaluate the things that we are doing right now, because it will tell us where the future is, right? So focus on some of these right things.
Absolutely. And Renzi, it's a very evolving world right now, right? Especially our earlier questions in interview, what do you want to be in 5 years, is a very irrelevant question in our current market, because we don't know what our 5-year mark is going to be, right? Is there any skill that every woman should start building today? Again, very close to what I asked Eva, but predominantly from a skill set standpoint of view, right? Because tech keeps changing, but at the end of the day, it's the brain that actually is getting us in front of what we are doing right now.
True. I would think that, be know what's happening in the world, right? Eva actually checked a lot of things, right? I mean, to me, AI literacy is a non-negotiable right now because the world is moving towards that, right? She spoke about strategic. You need to be a strategic person in your organization, right? You need to know your business acumen. You should be able to work with different stakeholders across the world, right? So I think all of these are important, and I'll tell you a very simple thing, because this is for a woman forum, right? Now this is where what I tell my women leaders in my or women in my company as well, right? See, you know God or nature or whatever you want to say, we've been made differently, women and men, right? But we've been made differently only physically, right? Now I will not compete with a man if I have to pick up whatever 100 kg weight or whatever, because they have been built differently, I have been built differently. But when it comes to an intellectual thing where it's only a brain thing, I am no less than any other man, right? So one, I need to remove that limitation from my head that I am less or I am woman. So when I'm looking at things, I never look at myself as a woman, right? I look myself as a person who's competing with the rest of the world. That's how I look at. So I think that's a key thing.
Absolutely. Last question, actually, Renzi, from a rapid fire standpoint of view. One thing that organizations should change to truly support the women leaders, right? I think there are a lot of companies which truly support, and there are companies which just like do a pink washing of the entire agenda. Is there any specific advice for those companies?
I think what organizations need to do is, and I would say it's not just women, it's for everybody, is to design pathways to leadership, right? Not as one size fits all model, but with intentional structures, transparent career opportunities, bias free evaluation systems. Women don't need more support programs, they need systems that don't hold them back.
Absolutely. Very well said, Renzi. Renzi, I'll actually maybe this kind of gives me a right leeway for asking you a question related to some of the stretch assignments and bold career moves that you have actually done in your past, right? Can you cite maybe one or two examples that of certain assignments or something which is very different from the day-to-day job that you would have taken, which helped you grow a little bit more faster than some of your other competitors from a company standpoint of view? And is there any other advice that you would actually kind of give to all of the people who are on the call and people like us in terms of how you can pick and choose the right opportunities which will help us accelerate our career faster?
So I'll tell you, alluding to the same point that I mentioned, that sometimes people put you in molds, right? Now I'll tell you, when I was in seventh or eighth standard, and in school, I wasn't good at math, right? I didn't like numbers. So all I used to get is just the passing marks in math, right? And on the other hand, I have an elder brother who always scored 100% in math, right? And we were in the same school. So of course, there'll be a comparison that will happen, right? So one of these teachers in a parent teacher meet, she was talking to my father, who was standing next to me, and told him that and my father of course told her that Shrensi doesn't like math much, and that's why you see her just the passing marks every time there's a test and stuff. And this teacher, right in front of me while I'm standing there, tells my father that that if she doesn't like numbers, she wouldn't do much in life, right? That's what the teacher said. And sometimes these teachers don't realize what they are doing to the other person when they say something like this, right? But thankfully, I don't know whatever it was, I didn't let it get into my head, right, that I cannot work with numbers. Right. I did okay in the academics, and then I moved in my HR field. Right. I started off in the talent acquisition field, right, which of course involves a lot of numbers, because you're only always chasing numbers, and who knows it better than you, Ajay, right? And then there was this opportunity where one of my colleagues who was doing payroll, she had to go on a maternity leave, right? And at that point of time, payroll was being done in Excel. That means all numbers being done, or all formulas being done in Excel. And what I did is I raised my hand for that. And this is like very high intense number game, right, where you can't be wrong. I raised my hand for it, and and within the first month, I won an award because I automated things after I took that role, right? So I'm just giving that example just to show, and again, talking about the same point. People will try to put you in a mold, be it because you are a woman, because you are weak in something, or because you are something else. What you need to hear is your own voice of what you can and cannot do, right? Figure out your strengths. What are you good at? Right? And to the audience here, I will tell you that this MBTI, is free. It's available free, and you can take the assessment. It tells you how you are. It gives you the dimensions that you work on. And I'm not saying to use that uh, as in basically it gives you 16 personalities. Basically, which personality are you close to? You may or may not choose that particular career, but at least it will tell you what is your strength and what is your weakness. And usually, what happens is people start working on their weaknesses, but I think that's a wrong focus. The focus has to be our strength. We need to work with our strength and do well. That is what we need to work on. So I will say, to coming back to your question, right? I mean, this is what I did. I mean, nobody could tell me that where am I weak, right? I kept on raising my hands for things which seemed difficult, right? And people saw. And one of the other things which is very important as a person is, I think, accountability. If you raise your hand and if you said something that you will do it, right? Because then you become that trustworthy person where if your manager or your super boss or whoever gives you a task or a opportunity, they know that you will not fail or you will not let them fail, right? So that's very important. Some of these key things have really helped me, do well, and help me reach where I am.
Thank you, Renzi. I think you got your numbers correct, so don't get too bothered about that right now. Eva, I would actually divert one question. I know that the biggest talk of the town right now is the in their intervention of AI that is getting into all of our lives, right? How do you see AI, digital skills, and automation impacting careers, and what should women, especially in the mid-career, do to stay ahead? Is one question that I have. Maybe I'll actually add a twist also because it's also affecting a lot of the entry-level jobs also, right? If you really look at the impact at this point in time, predominantly AI intervention is highly impacting the entry level. So if you could just cater that answer to both entry and the mid-level careers, that would be helpful for us.
I mean, it is a fact that AI and automation are fundamentally reshaping the career landscape, right? It is creating both displacement risks, as they call it, and unprecedented opportunities. So there is a statistic which says that for every job lost, there are two new jobs that are being created, right? And this is where I think especially mid-career women can navigate a little smartly, right? Of course, even for entry level jobs, this is a big change because I'm sure all of us are tracking what's happening in the industry. The campus recruitments are taking a big hit when people were hiring in thousands. Suddenly the numbers have changed, right? So what is it that people should do? Young engineers, mid-level engineers, what should we do, right? So I think it's very important that people should understand that technology and AI should be seen as a complementary skill, right? How do you learn to work alongside with this? Because there is no way in the near future that humans are going to be not needed in the industry, right? But they will be needed to do different kinds of roles. So if someone was doing thousands of lines of C++ coding, absolutely that is not needed anymore. I just give a prompt and my GitHub Copilot will write much better code than anything else today, right? So you don't need vanilla coders, right? But today, my entire development team is creating platforms for a very healthy CI/CD pipeline. I mean, I'm not going to go into the details of what CI/CD is, right? If someone needs to be in a meeting like this, talking to business users about a business challenge or a regulatory need, how can inputs from that meeting, which Microsoft Copilot is capturing, be converted into a user story, converted into features in the Jira dashboard, written as prompts in the GitHub Copilot, code is being written, test cases. So this framework has to come out, right? This framework doesn't exist. So developers are moving a notch higher and thinking of how do we create these orchestration layers, right? This is just one example. Then we are talking of RPA and bots and all of that stuff, right? So, and what is the kind of skill that you need to have? It is not about someone knowing UI path. It is someone understanding the business process, to create a bot, right? So I think one is to pick up AI literacy, AI skills, but more importantly, to understand the ecosystem where these tools are coming into play, right? Because the vanilla business leaders, the traditional business leaders, for them to pick up the AI skills is a much longer route than the technology leaders, the technology folks, whether it is entry level or mid level, to invest some time and to learn the business landscape is much easier, right? And I think as GCCs today, we are investing a lot of time in helping people assimilate this knowledge so that they will be able to not just be technical leaders, technical contributors, but techno-functional contributors. Right. So today in the plant that we have in Chennai, which manufactures cars, we have deployed industrial metaverse, right? Creating a virtual twin of the plant, right? You can just look at it as a technology intervention, but it is not a technology intervention. It is a change to the way the business is going to operate inside the plant from now on, right? It's a huge change management, and that is where the technology team and the business teams work together, right? So I think rather than stepping aside saying, okay, I'm not there in the game, I don't know AI, I think people need to not just learning Python. I'm not talking about learning tools, right? That's the easiest thing to do. But look at the application of these, be it machine learning algorithms, or be it, as I said, industrial metaverse, RPAs, any one of these. How is it used in the business context, and be that kind of a bridge between technology and business? I think that's going to be the need of the future as well.
Absolutely. And Eva, just to maybe give one business context, right? If you really look at one set of people who are deeply impacted, like you rightly mentioned, are the people who are directly coming out of the campuses these days, right? I think that's more of a temporary stop also. It's not that it's going to be continuing for a long period of time, because it's also a period where corporate like ours are also pausing and figuring out what's the next move, right? We are also not too sure where we are headed. Secondly, to people who are on the call, right, we are also coming from industries which are also very highly regulated, right? Which means that it's not very easy to push in AI as fast as we think we could actually, right? For example, if you look at healthcare, for example, where I come from, Eva, I know that AI is absolutely useful in maybe reading an MRI better than maybe a human being, but end of the day, we need a human being to sign off on that, because even one thing going wrong over there can be a life which is lost, right? So that's going to be a slightly tricky one. So I want the team also, like you rightly mentioned, be adaptable in terms of how what's changing in the market, and then look at how we are actually kind of taking forward. But absolutely co-living with AI is going to be the most important part, I would say, rather than actually kind of taking a negative stance, thinking that my job is safe and AI has got nothing to do with that, right? So just wanted to kind of highlight that.
On that, what I said probably applies more to the mid-career graduates, mid-career professionals. For the younger people who are just coming out of the college, one skill, this has got nothing to do with AI and digital, which probably in the country we lack, is problem solving skills, right? Everything is extremely spoon fed, even today, right? It's not that 30 years, 35 years back when I was in college, even today, the problem solving skill, the critical thinking skills is something that our younger generation is not fully picked on, because a lot of things are coming to them on a platter, especially with chat GPT being at their in their hands all the time. No one's even thinking. So today, as Renzi said, if you have to become an innovation hub, we want people to challenge things. We want people to question status quo. So in fact, this year, not just this year, in the last 2 years, our campus recruitment model is significantly changed. We are conducting hackathons. We just make a problem statement, right? And we are looking for people who can come up with bold recommendations and bold suggestions. So we are not looking for people who write the best C++ code, syntax, who knows how to extract data from an SQL database. All those days are over, right? Because all of that, we have tools. We don't need people to memorize syntax. So we are looking for people who can critically think, who can think out of the box, who can challenge the way things are being done. So I think that is a very important skill, especially for the children or the kids who are coming out of colleges. And that is something that we are strongly advocating when we partner with colleges in co-curriculum. I mean, I'm part of some of the academic council. When we curate curriculum, we tell them that at least more than 50-60% of their time should be in application of what they learn and solving real life business problems. Gone are the days when you're asked to write a library management system and an attendance monitoring system. I think put them under the carpet. I mean, there are real life problems creating urban cities. How do you improve healthcare? How do you get the seeds to the farmers? There are real problems at hand, right? So I think we should challenge students, and this is food for thought for the mid-career professionals as well, that the way they've worked in the past is not going to help them in the future, right? They need to think differently about the adoption of these tools in workplace.
Absolutely. Eva, I think I'll pause for the time being and maybe start looking at some of the questions which are coming on the chat, right? We got some really interesting ones which are coming in. I will start off with one question that came maybe ultimately in the beginning from a person by the name Parna Saha. The question is, if someone is starting their career, what's the most important thing to focus on, right? And maybe Renzi, if you can start off with a short answer for that. I know it's a very broad topic depending on the career path that you are taking, but if you could just give some direction in terms of that.
If somebody is just starting, I would say, first of all, they should acquire all the skills required for their current roles, right? For them to do really well in their current role. Right. Then what I would suggest is there's something called that we use in an organization, and all organizations use it. It will be available in Google itself. It's called individual development plan. Right. An individual development plan, and like you rightly said, Ajay, things are changing so much today, but I still think that you need to have a goal in the front, that what do you want to go, where do you want to move? And when I say that, I do not necessarily mean promotions, but I mean, what is your next role that you want to do, or how do you want to grow, kind of a thing, right? So once you put this individual development plan, you can work through it to see, what are the different skills that you require to reach to the next level, whatever is the next level that you want to work with, right? Then, work with your manager to see, because of course your manager is more experienced, so they know more about, things in the world, right? Take their inputs. You probably can, like Eva rightly mentioned before, get mentors, right? And take mentor who's not in your org line, but in a different org line, right? Could be from business, could be from wherever, right? It could be outside of your work as well, right? And somebody sitting in another company also, if they're available, right? And then along with that, create sponsors, like Eva mentioned, right? And how do you create sponsors? Because when you do really well in your job, right, you raise hands for projects, and then you meet people who will talk about you in rooms where you aren't present, right? And that is how you move up.
Okay. Renzi, if I could also add one thing, right? I think one of the things that, especially maybe it's a cultural thing, right? A lot of us glamorize roles which are one step higher in terms of a level, right? It's a lot of the companies, especially GCCs, we need to start glamorizing roles which are even lateral moves, which are not a higher up, but about learning something from other domain and moving right and left rather than just going upwards from a career landscape standpoint of view, right? Because that's the one which is going to be taking us further. We in Healthineers, for example, now that's one of our biggest journeys, because we are not an organization which may be organically growing huge like a service level industry where you have thousands of new roles getting added every year, right? So for us, the growth has to be also gauged in terms of the expanse in terms of what we are learning to, right? So maybe that's something that we need to also look at. I would actually kind of give one question, a very interesting question that came from Sarojini Das. What are the future trends and innovations expected to impact GCCs in India, and how can women professionals prepare for them? It's a pretty broad question again, but I think can you more attack it from a technology standpoint of view, because that's where we are currently headed from a GCC perspective.
See, the broader technology trends are, of course, the foundational element is data, whether you are talking about artificial intelligence or machine learning. For all of this, data is fundamental. So every organization is creating its metadata framework, is creating persona-based metadata frameworks, is creating data engines for highly integrated data extraction and ingestion. How do we maintain data integrity? So having a very robust understanding of the data framework is fundamental for all of us, right? Because if you do not have that fundamentals right, it's very difficult to say I'm an AI specialist or I'm a machine language specialist if you don't understand foundations of data, right? So for anyone who's looking at the new age trends, I think understanding the data is very important. And of course, there are many tools. I'm not going to go into all of that stuff. And the second is artificial intelligence, right? There was a point of time when you talk of artificial intelligence, it was more predictive intelligence and all. But today, people are looking at generative AI, and today, from one step beyond, we're looking at agentic AI. So every time we think we have mastered something, the next one comes on the table, right? So today we are talking of agentic AI, which means, I'll give you my personal experience. We have in Renault world almost 2000 plus back office operations teams. I mean, if you have to understand them, these are the people who process invoices for supplier parts, who manage customer warranty invoices and blah, blah, right? So there is a directive saying that this 2000 workforce have to be replaced by agents, AI agents. Far-fetched, maybe 100% won't change, but in 1 or 2 years, 60-70% of them will be manned by AI agents, right? So agentic AI is going to be the future. And then the other big digital feature or the digital intervention that's catching a lot of attention are virtual twins. Right? Virtual twins are not necessarily only for the auto industry. You can have a virtual twin of anything and everything. Ajay spoke about the fact that he's from the medical industry, right? So today we are talking of virtual twins of large hospital ecosystems.
Absolutely.
Right? Which can look at data sources from multiple things. In fact, this is not very far. Even in India, I mean, very recently, I had to one of my family members had to undergo a surgery at Apollo. The kind of technology interventions in talk of robotics and AI-driven surgeries. So every field. So the virtual twins are a digital replica of anything and everything. So we talk of virtual twins of factories, of cars. So which means you can monitor the performance of all of this real time without even being physically present. And what does this mean? It opens up avenues for women especially who are typically not seen as cut out for manufacturing. Right? Today, if you see using digital twins, much of my supervisors are women because they don't need to be inside the factory.
Absolutely.
Right? Because the factory is probably for, as Renzi mentioned, for professionals who have to do heavy lifting. Right? But the supervisory jobs are all women today because they are not inside the plant. So these are changing the landscape of working professionals. So the other interesting dimension is industrial metaverse. Right? Industrial IoT and things which started as industrial IoT, but today metaverse and industrial IoT, we are talking of industry 5.0 as to how plants across the world are being connected. So I talk about plants because I come from this industry, but then the same technology is being applied everywhere else. So RPAs is another big thing. Connected services, right? Today from my mobile, I'm able to completely control my car. I can control where my daughter is taking the car. I can ring fence the car. I mean, things like that using geofencing. I mean, this is not again just for the car industry. Today, I have a use case where loans processing companies, right? When collection agents go to collect money, are you sure that they have come to my house to collect? Right? So their mobile is being tracked to say where exactly they have gone. So technology is helping businesses make decisions to incentivize people at the right place at the right time. So these are some of the new age ones. As I said, in a few months, if we have a similar session like that, there's going to be probably two more, right?
I
That's
want to
the
maybe pause you for a second. I had a very interesting question coming on chat from Payal, and that's kind of outside the AI framework. Okay, and that's why I'm taking that up as a special question. If somebody wishes to start a business at this day and age, what is the field they can choose except AI? So keeping the AI aside, and AI, everybody will choose AI. So what different area can we choose, and how can we choose that? Uh,
I mean,
it's a very
the world is your canvas. The world is your canvas. It's. I mean, so many. I mean, you can start small, you can go big. I mean, I don't even know where to start, right? Because I have so many of my friends who started small businesses using Insta as their platform, Instagram as a platform, but today have such a big footprint in the retail sector, right? I have friends again who have taken organic farming to absolutely levels that I can't even comprehend, right? As I said, the world is your canvas.
Absolutely.
Uh,
If I could just add on to the answer, right, and just addressing Pile, it's not that AI is needed for any business, right? If you really, like 2 years back, I don't think we would have been thinking about this question at all. It would have been a very natural progression of how we start a business. So depending on where your heart lies and you're wanting to start whichever business, you can start without an AI, but at some point of time, you may need the help of AI to maybe enhance your business or maybe run the operations in a better way is what I would actually
Exactly. I think we should stop looking AI as someone who's come in way of our progression and our growth. I think if you look at AI as someone who will help us to do better, I think, I mean, the two or three cases that I spoke about, right? My friend, my personal connections who have taken retail business that they started in a very small way. How do they know which segment to target? How do they know what to launch when? All of that are the intelligence capabilities that AI engines have given them. While they had the skill to create clothing brands, where to take these brands, how to take these brands, when to sell what, all of that know-how came through AI engines, right? Of course, the core knowledge of how to build was theirs, but how to take it to the market was supported by AI. So I think we should stop worrying that AI is going to kill us, but if you can marry and make that marriage work, believe me, that's going to be the future.
Yeah, someone recently told me, Eva, on a lighter note, that I type please on everything that I type into ChatGPT because I don't know when it's going to turn against me. So this is more of that scenario, right? So let's actually kind of look at that. I'll go for one more question. And again, slowly doing the track on the diversity and inclusion aspect. Priya Sharma actually asked a question. What are the strategies which can be employed to foster a more inclusive and diverse leadership landscape? I think it's a very relevant topic, Eva and Renzi. Renzi, if you want to pick that up and maybe spend some time on that.
Sure. I think what is more important is that, you know, I'll tell you both the perspective. One is from the employer side and one from the employee side, right? I think what's important in the employer side is that you have this, bias training and how not to be biased, right? Because many people come with these biases in their head and they tend to use that in their languages, right? So that's the first thing what an employer needs to do, right? Now, the second thing which we need to do as women, and I'll specifically talk about women, right? If you are in a room where somebody is talking with a bias, it's you don't have to get defensive about it, right? I mean, you tell them right, that what is okay and what is not okay, right? And also build allies in your system. There are a lot of male allies who stand up with you, right? So I think it's important that one, employers, that they foster an environment where people thrive, and biases can be both sides, both on the male and the female side, right? Similarly, on the other side, we need to make sure that we focus on good work, present with our merit, and grow with our merit in our organizations.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one more question on top of that, Renzi, if you could just also take, Ilaimadi has asked a question in terms of how can senior women leaders leverage data, technology, and organizational networks to drive enterprise-wide transformation in GCCs?
So again, like you said, see, companies usually run a lot of initiatives, right? Because we cannot just do BAUs, right? I mean, say in Sabre also, we do multiple hackathons that we run, right? People raise their hand, they submit ideas, and these ideas are not just like Eva was mentioning, somewhere in the air kind of ideas. These ideas are production ready ideas. What is the ask in those hackathon is that you have gone to a product leader and taken their input that this works, right? When you do that and come to a hackathon, then when you're presenting it to the judging panel, you know that this is, and you tell them that this is going to be working, right? So so similarly like that, right? Raise your hands for various things. There are multiple initiatives. There could be global initiatives, and I know companies run initiatives all the time, right? Be at a local level, be at your business unit level, be at a global level. Raise your hands for that. Be more visible. Spend on your own learning. I know a lot of people, sometimes tell their company, "Oh, my company doesn't have this learning, that learning," kind of a thing. I mean, you need to move away from that, right? I think what is important is, and what you need to know is, your career is your responsibility. It is not a company's responsibility. It is not your manager's responsibility, right? It's your own responsibility, and hence you will work on it. So when you learn new things, right, it's going to help you in the future. You may not understand it yet, and the reason why we are saying that you should raise your hand is because that experience helps you in another way, which you don't, which you will not see right now, but it will come back in the future and help you take up some of those other roles, right? Right. We also talk about. I mean, I will also add even the soft skills that people fail to focus on, and those are executive presence. Those are communication skills. How do you come across as a more confident person, right? And that can only happen if you keep if you keep learning things, if you keep working with people and surround yourself with the right people, right? I think that's a very key thing, right? Those are some of the inputs that I have.
Thank you. See, I think we are almost at the verge of the time, but I will maybe ask one question, and Eva and Renzi, you can both pick up the question, maybe 1 minute answer each. Very relevant question in terms of what are the future trends and innovations expected to impact GCCs in India, and how can women professionals prepare for them? Eva, maybe you can start off with that.
Yeah, I think innovation is probably the way to go, right? With 1,700 GCCs and more to come in the near future, no one is looking at coming to India because of labor and cost arbitrage, right? People are coming to India because not just because of the GCCs that they've set up, but because of the overall ecosystem that we have in India. The number of startups, the academic institutions, all of this come together to play when we support our parent organization. Right? We are not, for example, even though we are a large 15,000 member team in India, for us, it's not just this 15,000 people. We have a research park set up inside IIT Madras. We work with T-Hub, with many startups for breakthrough ideas. So for me, I think innovation varies from context to context, from business to business. So the innovation that we are looking in context of the car industry, right? For us, for example, we have a mandate. Typically, a car takes about 3 years to build, right? The Chinese came and killed us by bringing cars in 18 months to the market, to the road. Right. So we have a program called Leap 100, which is a very strategic innovation program where we want to build cars in 2 years time frame. So from 3 years to 2 years. So this is not just a vision. This is not just a bold statement that is there in a PowerPoint. Everything that we do at Renault today is around Leap 100, which means, am I contributing to shrinking the car manufacturing timeline to 100 weeks? As against 150 weeks. So along these lines, I think every GCC, every particular business has a larger vision and a larger mission. And that's exactly what our GCCs are taking. And today, I don't think any GCC is successful if they have their own charter, right? Saying, I want to do this X, Y, Z. I think having the complete alignment with the larger organizations' business objectives is the way to go. And at the heart of this is innovation. And as I said, for us at Renault, Leap 100 is one such innovation program that we have launched. I'm sure every other business has something. I'm sure NC's organization has a program along these lines to focus on innovation.
Absolutely. Renzi, you want to maybe have a minute on that
I
same
think Eva
question?
has, pretty much covered, everything that is need to be covered. And in my last, answer also, I said, right, I think there's a lot of other soft skills also that you need to develop, right? One part is the technology part of it, but it's also about how do you own the room? How do you create opportunities for you to be on the table that you're seeking, right? I mean, nobody will create a welcome thing or red carpet for you, right? You will be invited there because they see you're competent and you're able to speak confidently, right? And I think some of these things are very important, and it's very important for folks to focus it. And I mean, I am looking at a world in a future world where we don't have to create any programs for women, right? Because we can just stand up for ourselves and do well, and then we don't need to create any of these other programs where it feels as if woman is a woman, that a woman is growing because she is a woman and not because of the merit that what she has done.
Absolutely. Eva, Renzi, thank you so much. I think we are right at the dot of the time. But big thank you for answering all the questions, and most importantly, giving the views from your heart and mind. Ananya, over to you for the wrap-up.
Am I visible? Okay, I'm back again. Great. Okay. Thank you all very much for being a part of today's session. Thank you once again, Eva, Renzi, and Ajay. Like, there were some wonderful insights, things that all of us will inculcate, and I hope everyone here had some great takeaways from today's conversation. Hoping to see you all in the next section of the series. Thank you once again.